Okay, you got Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Mankind, the Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, The Rock, John Cena. What do they all have in common? Those guys ended up teaming with each other with notable tension between them. Mega powers, you can maybe excuse that because back in those times before Miss Elizabeth got injured and Hulk Hogan carried her away in his arms, there wasn't that much tension, but there have been teams that have come together for the purpose of defeating a common enemy, right? They wanted to defeat similar enemies before they can get back to beating the hell out of one another. So what do all of those teams have in common? You can add Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns to that because this past Friday on the world premiere of WWE SmackDown on USA, that's right, they are on the USA Network, no more on Fox. This was their world premiere episode. They ended the program with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns agreeing to team up to face a Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu looks like he watched that cartoon of him that's been floating around the internet. I think it's like Ace of Media or something. I'll put his video in the comments below. A hilarious video. It's like Jacob Fatu going full on scorched earth, beating up Goku and Sonic and like all of these cartoon characters in an animated video setting, and they're in high school. It's the Bloodline walking through high school. They're beating up Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. Anyways, you're going to see a couple of clips of it here. I saw it for the first time with Promo Joey, and I don't know if it was Promo Joey that did the video. I've seen it on Instagram and on other platforms under an Ace of Media type of a username. But anyways, you can tell Jacob Fatu's been studying that because as he's sitting there wide-eyed with the pray hands, just staring at Solo, hoping that he looks at him or acknowledges him. It's hilarious. And you can tell he's getting into it. Like, he's really getting into that character of being that mercenary, of being that henchman, that hitman for hire, you know? So we're going to see Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns form the Mega Powers, form the match made in hell with Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior back at SummerSlam. They're going to do their own version of that. So a lot of people still believe that we can potentially get to the Bloodline versus the OG Bloodline. Erroneous on both counts. Oh, Lord, here we go again. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. If they are still able to pull that off, I'm going to be super impressed. I'll be super impressed because that is not the way that Triple H has been formulating his storylines and letting them play out. I can see it happening in a year, and I can see that they can do certain things to keep the bloodline from the OG bloodline from forming until that date. Because the way that it looks right now, in my eyes, it looks like they're going to be doing something with the Judgment Day at War Games at Survivor Series, but coming off the Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, I feel like they shouldn't go the cage match route and War Games with the 2 rings. But if they're going to do that annually with Survivor Series, then they're going to have to do what they have to do, what they feel like they need to do in order to keep the tradition alive. But I felt like, you know, with War Games, it should be only for special situations, only to solve like faction warfare, and it shouldn't be overdone and done every year, which every year I feel like it'll get like a little formulaic and it'll have less of that meaning, less of that feel of something special. You know, it should be brought out for a special occasion. You see AEW does it with Blood and Guts, and it's kind of getting a little like, let's just throw these guys together and get them in the ring for the sake of getting them in the ring because we got to do the Blood and Guts match, right? War Games and Hell in a Cell should not be like annual things. They should be things that come along once in a blue moon to settle rivalries. Hell in a Cell should be settling a rivalry between two guys or 2 gals that really are like going at each other and formulating this feud that it needs to end in the cage. The same with War Games. War Games should be when these 2 factions genuinely have spent a better part of a year trying to destroy one another, and this has to be in two cages, in 2 rings to settle this war. It shouldn't just be thrown together. And right now, if you ask me, if it was Judgment Day, Then on the other side, it would be the Terror Twins, Miz, R-Truth, and, you know, and I don't know who else you would put with them. Braun Strowman?
We're going to get a little competition, because if not, hey, I want to get a sweat. I got better things to do with my Saturday. You know?
Like, I don't know, like, who would team up with the Terror Twins, whether it be Jey Uso and Sami Zayn or R-Truth and The Miz. I don't know who could team up with the Terror Twins to complete the storyline with the Judgment Day and make it make sense, make it tie in and go like, yeah, that actually works. R-Truth and The Miz, God bless them, they are not the most like serious of threats, and they're essentially a comedy team, and they're in a program with Bronson Reed, who's feuding with like 5 or 6 other guys right now. So I don't know if the Judgment Day against the new Judgment Day or the Terror Twins or whatever they're going to be calling themselves, it actually works for War Games, right? But if that's the way that they could go, that's where I see it going. Some form of grouping of the Terror Twins with 2 other individuals against the Judgment Day. That's the way I see it going. But if they go OG Bloodline against Bloodline, they've got a lot to tie up, and they don't have a lot of time to do it. We have not seen Paul Heyman yet. We have not seen Jimmy Uso yet. Jey Uso is competing for the Intercontinental Championship at Bad Blood. We have Sami Zayn on the other brand competing for the World Championship against Gunther. They need to come to SmackDown, and then there also needs to be a reconciliation process. They need to figure out how to get Roman Reigns to be in the good graces of these guys that he tormented psychologically with warfare, tricking them into thinking that he cared about them, only to turn on them and leave them out in the dust to collect themselves again and figure out their identity. And after all of this time, Sami Zayn is trying to come back into his own. Jey Uso is finally coming back into his own and becoming that main event Jey Uso that he has been known, that he's been trying to get for so long. Jimmy Uso is like non-existent. He's a ghost.
Man, I'm in a fucking zone. Would you relax? I'm in a zone. Really?
Paul Heyman was thrown through a table with a 5 o'clock shadow, looking like he'd smoked with Rob Van Dam, and he is gone. He has not been seen. They need to bring that. That's at least, to me, that's at least 4 weeks of WWE television, at least, of trying to put them all together and formulate their reunion. And I don't know if that is enough time, but it's possible. I'm starting to think that it is not as impossible as I originally thought. But that's just a lot to tie up. And if that is the case, if they are going to try and do it and get that to be the Survivor Series War Games match, then what happens on the other end of that? Because if they're going to do that, then Solo and Jacob need to defeat Cody and Roman at Bad Blood. It's a very easy way to do it. Cody and Roman do not like each other. Reigns and Rhodes, the American Nightmare Bloodline, or the American Tribal Nightmares, or whatever they're going to be calling themselves, they don't really get along, and they seem to be really hesitant to team with one another. So what you definitely could do is provide that lack of chemistry and kind of they bumble around, and aside from brawling, when it comes to really doing tags and hot tags and stuff like that, then it just doesn't work out. It provides just enough to give Solo the win over Roman or Cody Rhodes, which is huge because Solo's taken 2 losses to Cody Rhodes, and this year, aside from formulating his new bloodline, has not been as dominant as he should be. And I understand why he's not, but enough is enough. He has now gotten Jacob Fatu to be psychotically invested in making him the king. And if Jacob Fatu, a man that is, genuinely crazy, is now on your side and completely committed to being your henchman, your second man, then that is what it could possibly take for him to get an opportunistic win in a matchup against one of the top guys that he's been feuding with, whether that be Cody or Roman. That loss for Roman Reigns can provide the opportunity for him to be vulnerable enough to look to his former friends, former brothers, former colleagues to bring back the OG Bloodline, just enough for Paul Heyman to go, you know, we might need to get the band back together. And that is what could bring about the OG Bloodline. I still feel like they could take a year to do this, but I don't know what they could do in the middle of that. Maybe they could bring the Wyatt Six over, Judgment Day and Bloodline. I don't know. But they could end this at the Survivor Series and have the OG Bloodline against the Bloodline, and then do some kind of a split after that, and then maybe make like 4 different Bloodlines that collide all over the rest of the year. I know it's possible. It is possible that they could do something like that. But if that is the route that they're going, they need to catch up quick because they got a lot of ground to cover. An entirely long list of ground to cover. And they still haven't brought back, or they still haven't debuted Hikuleo, which is going to apparently be going, based on the trademark that they had for the name, Hala Tala Tonga. Not Hala, just Tala Tonga, but it rolls off the tongue really well.
I was gonna go get a weapon, everybody! Everybody get a weapon!
Tala Tonga, right? So if they're going to bring him in and he's going to be the 5th person, the OG Bloodline would need a 5th person. And if that 5th person is Cody Rhodes has a long-standing history with the War Games, being that his father, Dusty Rhodes, literally created the idea for War Games. So if you're going to do the OG Bloodline and Cody Rhodes against the new Bloodline, that's it right there. And I think that could work. I really do think that could work. But like I said, they've only got like less than 2 months to make all of that work, and that is not a lot of time. And especially in WWE folklore, not a whole lot of time to really make all of that like stretch and work out. But they've got all that ground to cover, and not a whole lot of time, but it is possible. And I'll be excited to see if they all get that fit into a cohesive story and present Bloodline against OG Bloodline at Survivor Series in Canada in the War Games cage. I think it would be a heck of an idea and a heck of a match, and then you don't have to wait that full year for it. But we'll see what happens. What do you guys think? Do you think that Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are going to lose at Bad Blood to set up and establish the War Games cage a month after that at Survivor Series? You guys let me know what you think in the comments. How does Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns hold up as a super tag team next to the All-Stars like Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior? We're gonna find out, but definitely historically, teams that don't get along, they either do really, really good, or something happens, they lose the chemistry, and then they end up colliding later on. So pay attention to that, because WWE historically, they have these big guys team up and have these mega teams like Rock and John Cena, and then they split up, and then they have a huge matchup that happens not too soon thereafter. So maybe that's what they're setting up for, or maybe they're setting up for War Games. It is anybody's guess, but I'm super excited to see how this one's going to play out. Super excited to see what they're going to do with this OG Bloodline reunion, and if it's going to happen this year or next year. I'm starting to think, though, now that I'm talking about this, I'm starting to think that it might happen this year. I think they might do it. I think they might consolidate it. I think they might go 5 weeks. Boom, boom, boom. Every week something different happens. I think that could happen. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Thumbs up on the way out. You guys, as always, stay tuned for more.